Hello, today I want to talk about whether the stock market and a lot of other things in investment in the finance world, are they actually real? Do they reflect reality in society? Are they virtual, kind of like a Sims game? Well, yeah, they're definitely virtual. To understand what I mean by that is, does the company's actual value anyway correlate with its price? Yes, but such a little correlation that might as well just be a simulation where you play a game, and yes, the game, how you interact with your character and play your character, might have to do with your personality, with how you're feeling at the moment, and reality is a simulation of reality. But you really can't look at the game and predict reality. And this would mean, if that's true, if the stock market's like this, maybe we should take the stock market less seriously, or it should be a less powerful instrument in our society. To start off my explanation, let's pretend there's two stocks, C and B, and there's two people, P1 and P2. P1 invests in C, can only invest in one or two stocks in this simple model. Invest in C. When it invests in C, the stock for C goes up in price because people are spending more money. It goes up and up. B, because it's getting less investment because it doesn't get money, starts to go down. So B is going down. And that's going to be just a general assumption. As C goes up, B goes down, because they're competing and you can only invest in one of them. Not always true, but in the simplified model, we're saying it's true. So then we have P2 looks and sees that C is desirable. Says, maybe I should start investing in C. So that one starts investing in C. And C goes up even more. C goes up way, way more. And that makes B go down even more. So now we have B just crashing. Well, did P1 or P2, did P2 make the logical choice? Well, according to investments, maybe. They saw the price, they made an assumption based on the price of where to invest. But does that reflect the company? Well, what if P1 made that decision based on misunderstood information, or also a random market trend, or incomplete information, or they just liked C and then P2 built up on it? Whatever the reason P1 made it, even if it was good or bad reason, P2 just magnified it. Now let's say some information happens and it turns out that the company C is really doing awful. But we only had a delay, but now its stock is all the way up here, when actually it should be all the way down here. It's going to take time for it to fall down. Meanwhile, this might have already crashed and burned. And it's going to take time for that news to spread and reflect accurately, so it can be totally out of phase. When it crashes and burns, though, we can see that when it starts crashing and burn, it starts going down. And it can go down really rapidly, as suddenly always players could move at once out of this. And that can lead to a feedback loop that goes down way too fast. And B1 can then go, B, which now has suddenly starts going up, goes up really fast. And these things can build up. They can build up in a compounding way that the oscillations in the stock market can go from very little up and down, up and down, up and down for one, and the other one can go up and down to very big, until the whole thing is huge oscillations out of no reason. And totally, completely, in reality, could just be these tiny little fluctuations over here. These big fluctuations might even go over reality, be bigger than reality itself. It could be, that could be, yeah, the whole market. And the more things you have interacting, the more little things can have that. Now, there's a couple of assumptions I made in this model that might make that if you take into account a couple more things, you can be even more extreme. Is P1 even logical? Why did P1 invest in C? Maybe they just liked C. Maybe they have a personal connection. Is every purchase you make logical in everyday society? No. I mean, people all the time buy food that they regret later on, that they buy a more expensive thing. People can gamble away their life savings in extreme events. People don't spend money logically. People also spend money with not enough information, to make a complete idea. And people would also spend money with not having the full amount of information. So I find out later there's a giant scandal or the product's defective, but I found it after I invest a ton of money. All this can lead to fluctuations and it takes time for the investment to go through. So I might regret the investment, but it might take days for it to go through. And all this can exaggerate stuff and make it not a reflection of the current reality anymore, and make these things fluctuate wildly from reality. And then we have something even to make it worse. The people with most power, people have different levels of power. The people that are most informed and understand a product the most probably don't have the biggest money. The biggest investors are banks or people with high amount of capital that are not people that understand technology, society, or all these little factors. So they're going to be investing and exaggerating stuff based on their feelings, not on the feelings of the masses even. You also have that we have now computer algorithms that invest for us. And these computer algorithms don't understand society at all. They understand, they just look for patterns, and they will find any little pattern and exaggerate it. And they will also look at past patterns and exaggerate it, whether those past patterns are true reflections of reality or not. Totally thing, and they will just keep bloating and exaggerating. If I have a computer, I might see that the sales of oranges in a simple cases is going up. However, some guy might not know that a person might not see the sales of oranges are going up and realize that the sales of oranges can't keep going up, that everyone's buying the oranges because the hurricane's coming. But the computer might just invest totally in oranges. That would be something that will not reflect the reality of the pricing. The computer might keep investing way longer than it should be. Or they might not figure out seasonal trends or other trends that people might figure out. There's actually been a couple cases where there's been a super sudden drop in stock markets because there was a tweet or a pattern was found that made the whole computer system glitch. One was a famous one where a person put some tweets and spread around with a bunch of things about Obama and the White House and terrorist attacks. And the stock market would rapidly drop. Then after I figured out it wasn't true, went back up. A person would not make that same mistake at such a massive level, especially if the person's with everybody. So now we have that. The other thing is speculation doesn't take into account all the speculation saying we can actually evaluate the value of a company or an individual or a group, which we might not be able to do in the first place. How do we not know that how do we know the worth of a product? Is the internet is more expensive and a lot of modern day technology is more expensive. But food is something we'll always need. However, do we need all the fancy food we have? And internet can give us food. So what is worth more? Internet or food? How do you evaluate that? How do you evaluate the location? How do you evaluate something is worth How do you value the worth of anything, really? That is an incredibly hard thing, especially if you get into more like abstract things like financial tools or services, something that's not as concrete. You also can't evaluate the company well because you don't know how much it's going to do better in the future. There could be natural disasters, scandals that come up, but they could also develop a breakthrough technology. And it's impossible to predict what technology will be the next step in breakthrough, or there could be a trend that all appears sudden. And these speculations in market, the more speculative a market is, the more it's just randomness and the more it's diverse from actual reality. So if you're making any predictions for like debts and speculative market, and we have now markets built on, we have markets predicting stock prices, which is even more speculative. And the more layers we add, the worse it gets, because if we just have a feedback layer here, I'm gonna draw a new sketch. If we just have one feedback layer, let's say we have the real world, which I'm gonna call R, make it blue, color it in with some nice colors for Earth. This is one thing. Let's just say that directly impacts the stock market. Stock market. That's what we call it 2S. Well, now, okay, that's fine, and it's going to have a little impact on the real world. However, let's add a third layer. We're going to add something called the speculative market. The speculative market we're going to be guessing. It's going to be a fuzzy little cloud thing because it's really speculative. This includes just mutuals, but it includes stock trades, little micro stock trading things. It includes predictions on the stock markets, debt packs, a bunch of things. This market, I'm going to go question mark, now is even more away from reality, but it feeds into the stock market and it exaggerates it and adds another layer. So the stock market becomes even worse and less real. This also includes financial instruments such as loaning and stuff like that. Everything becomes less and less real. So hopefully I've started to convince people that the stock market is not an accurate reflection of reality, and that's why you can see prices go up and down all the time. And you can't make predictions, like again, about the future, which is all it's based on. So what does this mean? Well, when the economy is all about improving the stock market, that doesn't mean we're actually talking anymore about improving reality. When we're worried about the stock market, we can lose sight of reality. So yes, we have to be worried about somewhat in the stock market in our current society. Otherwise, a bunch of people will go in debt, but not as much as stuff that's more real, like employment figures or salaries or cost of living. All those are way more important measurements. And it also means that the stock market existing so much control over investments and how people spend their money is a really bad idea, because we can't make good predictions and we can't use it for reality. But it also means that people could erroneously get ones because they just are taking trends and magnifying it as they see a trend and they put more money into that trend and so on and so on. Or there's these abstract financial tools divorced away from reality that people can't even understand anymore. And when you can't understand the system, because it's so abstract and so out there, you can't make good predictions anymore, and you can't keep it logical. So, to quickly summarize, the stock market doesn't work because people are uninformed and just making decisions not based on the full information. There's a ton of speculation, making it divorced from reality. There's pattern finding, and then we take those patterns and exaggerate it. People act illogical and don't always make the logical decisions. There's a huge time delay in a lot of these decisions, or even a small one, and that also people with the most power are not the average person, or have the most knowledge, and those are the ones really affecting society. Is there a way to fix these problems? Well, we have one argument that we should just do away with all these abstract finance instruments. Another one would be just to weaken their power. If we weaken their power, they cannot go up and down as much. The simple reason is, if I put a cap on tax on stocks, that a company can only have $10 million worth in stocks. This might not be the best idea of how to do it. Then it can only go up to $10 million. If I put some other caps on finance instruments, I can stop them from fluctuating as much, and I can keep them close to reality because they have less time to go way up and away from reality. Or I can put in delays in the more speculative ones, the ones that are even farther away from reality. Another one I could do to keep it more based on reality and keep financial power into the people is I could make sure that people can't trade stocks too fast, because the fast trading that we do is what makes stocks go up way, 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 way fast in time. That's what builds up these really hyper fast bumps up and bumps down. Or I can do something different, and I can make it I can limit how much money people can spend on it, or I can put like a penalty for large transactions, or penalty for transactions in general, or limits on how much any one individual can spend. So just also limiting the amount of power any individual has with stock market. The more people participating equally on an equal footing in the stock market, the less power someone has that are just one individual who is more likely to have their own bias. And even if you have a bunch of people working together, the bias is more equal out. If we vote as a country with only one person voting, a lot more bias than the whole collective voting. It's the same idea. More people, better. More spread out. Or we could do a bunch of random trading. The weirdest one I've seen is a bunch of random trading where the government just steps in and buys a bunch of stocks and trades them randomly, and that will just diminish any small, it'll just cause a lot of noise that just drowns out any of the small patterns. So none of the small patterns are ever found. And they promotes the economy because it promotes trade. That was more of a crazy idea. But we have ideas like that. Or we have the more radical ones, is abolishing all these speculative markets, and I'm including stocks and beyond. But this would be important because for very powerful, wealthy people, this is how they can primarily get a lot of money that poor people can't. And it turns out this is not based on reality. So it's not based on them figuring out what's best for the people or anything else anymore, because it's just been so separate, and it's based on amplifying patterns that are not anywhere about how good a technology is. People can earn millions of dollars finding these micro patterns and trading them, just seeing these small trends up and selling them, that the average person can't, because we don't have computers that can trade in milliseconds or microseconds, or we don't have enough money that we can buy millions of dollars and flood the market some way to control the market. So yes, controlling it is. Also, if people have more fair stocks in like a company, if more people had the stocks distributed, they have more power over that one company. A final solution that people have proposed along the lines of the problems is actually that you give a certain amount of stocks or ownership or some of the other finance instruments that has to do with this company to everyone that is involved in the company, not only the board, but every one of the workers, which will distribute the powers much more evenly. Thank you for this brief talk. I'm working on getting a microphone and a better setup, and I should get everything better eventually. Please subscribe and like and comment if you want to. It really helps out, and spread the word.